Hey guys, welcome back. This is Eric Smith, part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, with a review of my grades for the Week 7 matchup of the Dolphins offensive line versus the Indianapolis Colts. This week's a tough loss, and I expect it to be a brutal week on social media, at least early in the week. Maybe the return of Tua for the Cardinals game and the prospects of getting within one game of 500 will bring some optimism later in the week. But anytime that you have a one-score game, you can point to some key plays that made the difference in the game, when in reality, there's 60 minutes of football and there's dozens of plays within the game that could have changed the outcome of a one-score game. This was certainly one of those weeks for Miami, and I think it's getting the proper attention for the number of opportunities that were missed or ignored by the Dolphins in all three phases of the game. Defensively, you had missed interceptions, missed sacks, poor run fits. Special teams had a false start and a missed field goal. And that brings us to the offense, where our focus is going to be on the offensive line and how they graded out. As a reminder, my grading process looks at the assignment each offensive lineman appears to be executing on each play and assigns a grade. A 1 would mean that they successfully executed that assignment. A 0 means that they clearly did not execute that assignment. And a point 0.5 grade means that it was somewhere in the middle. Those grades are then added up and entered into a formula that looks at past performance of the Dolphins offensive line, ranging back to the beginning of 2023, and it then converts the grades that you'll see in this video. For the season, the Dolphins have graded fairly well across the offensive line, sitting at 8.15. This week's game against the Colts was their best. In the past, we've talked about the anatomy of the offensive line in the sense that you'd have two players who graded really well, you've got two that graded okay, and one who wishes he would have done better. The biggest difference in this week's grade is that they eliminated that last segment. I'm not saying there's not room to continue to improve. Each lineman has individual plays that they wish they could have had back. But what I'm saying, and what you'll see in these grades, is that every lineman who played this week graded above his season average. The result of that is a new overall high of 8.91 for this week. Once again, we were able to have the same 5 offensive linemen start and play every snap of the game. I use the word continuity often when talking about offensive line play, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the highest graded game coincides with the first time that this offensive line has been together for consecutive games either. Below each name, in parentheses, you can see each player's average grade coming into Week 7 versus the Colts. Liam Eichenberg is the lowest graded player on the offensive line for this week, but as you can see, the lowest grade this week is still above the season average for the entire offensive line. And that should set the table for the other players we'll talk about today. I'm not here to tell you that Liam Eichenberg is a great guard or even an above average guard. The narrative that I've been trying to push for some time now is that Eichenberg also isn't the worst option that you can have. And that if Eichenberg is your fifth best offensive lineman, you're probably more worried about it than Chris Greer. All right, as we get into the film review for Liam Eichenberg, we have him here at right guard. And on the previous play, Miami ran some inside zone to the left and had some good success. They went right back to it here. And as you're going to see, the second time they run this, the defensive tackle is expecting a little more. And Eichenberg is not able to get a good block here, not able to either seal him off, which is the position that he's in initially, or able to create vertical movement. Achane should have been able to hit that up in the middle there and, been one-on-one with number 41. But because of Eichenberg not being able to make this block 2 times in a row, Achane ends up having to bounce this. And then another one for Eichenberg here. So this is going to be an outside zone to the right, and it starts out pretty well in the sense that he gives just enough help to allow Aaron Brewer to get around that block. But then as he's climbing, he whiffs completely on number 44. And you can see just by the amount of space that's created between that Austin Jackson block on the outside and the Aaron Brewer cutoff that if Eichenberg can get a piece of 44 and gives Mostert the confidence to turn that up, then this is a play that had a lot of potential for a home run. And then we're going to do one pretty good play for Eichenberg as well. This is going to be a long trap to the left. You can see Eichenberg pulling out to number 97. And not a big block here, and I know you'd like to see him create movement there. But when you talk about being fundamentally sound when you're pulling, the idea here is to get your head to the inside of this defender. And that's what prevents that defender from being able to spin back in and get back into that play. And this is something that Eichenberg did pretty well throughout the game this week. And as you can see, not allowing that defender to squeeze the gap allows Julian Hill also to get on 41, and that's what opens up that lane for Mostert. So again, not anything groundbreaking, but just a good fundamental play that shows some of the stuff that Eichenberg does that keeps him in the lineup. All right, next is Rob Jones, and I spent the offseason promoting Jones as the best option for what we thought was the one open guard spot. Through the first few weeks, he had me wondering if that was just a missed evaluation on my part. Instead, after his worst performance of the season, Jones has bounced back to have his two highest graded games of the season. Jones is not a perfect fit for every offense, and he can be exposed when asked to do certain assignments, but he does just enough stuff well that he can succeed in this system. All right, first one for Rob Jones here. Got him playing at left guard, and this is going to be a power to the left. And Jones is going to try to get to this linebacker here. And as the fullback motions, the guard's pulling, this linebacker is going to start flowing towards that play. And as you can see, Jones misses that block. This is one of the places that he still struggles a bit, not the greatest in open space. He shows good short area quickness, and I highlighted that on some of my videos on X during the game. But once you get him to open field, he tends to struggle a little bit. And this was an example, again, of a play that, if Jones gets down here and he seals this linebacker, then Achan's looking at a nice lane through the middle here. And then for our second video for Jones, again here at left guard, this is going to be an example of a play that would receive a 0.5 in my grading. And the reason for that is the first thing that he does is to help Aaron Brewer seal that zero shade nose tackle. That little shot there might not seem like a lot, but that's what allows Brewer to seal him to the inside. Again, we're seeing a huge lane here between Aaron Brewer and Teron Armstead. But then we get to the part where, again, Rob Jones struggles in space and is not able to really get his hands on 41. If he's able to climb a little quicker and get his leverage to the play side here, right there is your lane that could be potentially opening up for Achan. Instead, his limitations in space show up once again, and that player is able to make a play. And as a correction there, I see that's actually Jalen Wright. It is not Achan. Jalen Wright should have been in here much more in this game. Talking about Austin Jackson is kind of starting to sound like a broken record on these videos each week. Everyone knows that he has issues in pass protection. The team has done well to mask that with pass protection concepts and providing assistance when possible. But Jackson's value in the run game just does not get enough attention. His ability to move in space and create movement on the perimeter is one of the key factors in Miami's commitment to running outside zone, as well as his ability in general to create movement on long trap and power plays where he's asked to block down on a defensive tackle. Okay, I've only got one video for Austin Jackson this week, and this is going to be the short yardage fullback dive that was not converted. And you can see that on, first play of this, it definitely looks like an awful block by Austin Jackson. I did give him a 0, but where you can really get into the gray area of trying to grade individual offensive linemen is to try to determine whether or not that was even his assignment. If you watch everybody else and watch the way that their first step is, everybody is stepping to the left, right? That defender actually slants to Jackson's backside gap, which, if everybody is supposed to go to the left, would have ended up as Julian Hill's guy. Instead, Julian gets his right shoulder into that defensive end, helping out Durham Smythe. So whether this defensive tackle that the play is running right at was supposed to be Jackson's guy, or whether Julian Hill should have been blocking down just like everybody else is almost impossible to know. But I wanted to include it just because Austin Jackson did have a really good day overall. This was just the one play that I had marked as a 0 for him. All right, next up, Aaron Brewer. He received a grade of 9.05, and that's his second highest grade of the season. Brewer continues to be every bit the perfect fit for this system, as I felt that he would be after watching his 2023 film with the Titans. All right, first play for Brewer as our center. So this is going to be outside zone to the left. And as you can see here, the assignment is calling for Brewer to be able to take over that combo block from Rob Jones on that two technique defensive tackle. And Rob Jones does a decent job of giving him a little bit of help before he slides off to that linebacker. And we can see on this play that, it's not a awful block. I probably gave Brewer a .5 on this, but this is a limitation of his that when you get a defensive tackle, I think that's Raekwon Davis there, number 90. It's not the best matchup for Aaron Brewer to be asking him to try to get vertical push on that. Maybe the running back could have read that a little earlier and got the cutback, which he eventually does. But in a perfect world, if you're looking at a perfect center, you're not seeing the penetration here, and this cutback is able to be a little smoother. All right, then the flip side of that is that they don't ask Brewer to do that very often, but what they do ask him to do often is to get in space and get to a linebacker. And that's exactly what you see here. His ability to climb to the next level and just get attached to linebackers is better than most centers in the league. And then you get plays like this where he not only gets there and gets attached, but he pancakes the linebacker. And Brewer's just a lot of fun to watch. Does a lot of things well, but when you're watching him in open space, that's definitely where he excels. And you could see it on the Janu Smith touchdown screen as well, that Brewer was out in front making the key blocks on that. And of course, we finish with Teron Armstead, who gets his highest grade of the season at 9.60. And that's the second highest grade I've given out for this entire season, only trailing Aaron Brewer's performance against the Seahawks. Armstead is the highest graded lineman is not a surprise. He's earned that distinction nearly every time he's been on the field. Of course, as we all know, the question is how long he'll stay on the field. For now, just enjoy his mastery of playing the left tackle position. All right, our first one for Teron Armstead here at left tackle is going to be an outside zone to the right. And in terms of reading this, the running back is going to read the defensive end out here, and then based on that leverage is going to either look to the outside or look to cut it back. So keeping your eyes over here, we can see early that the outside leverage by that defensive end is going to, bring the eyes here, seeing the outside leverage on the defensive tackle. Now we're looking at a cutback, and you can see that Alec Ingold reads that the same way. But one of the big keys to this play is that Rob Jones is in decent position here. Even if the ball were to hit up the middle, he's in decent position. But then we see Teron Armstead getting into that block, and he basically just throws him out of the club. I mean, he's throwing him 7, 8 feet out of there, and then sealing that linebacker number 44 as that cuts through. So this is, again, one of those plays that may not make the highlight reel, but when you look at the difference that it made in the play, that instead of, having to bend this all the way back here, this defensive tackle is getting thrown all the way to the side. And instead of being a cutback across the grain, this becomes a cutback that gets vertical right away. All right, our last video, we're going to be looking at Teron Armstead here, going to be running duo to the left here. And you're going to see the combination of Jones and Armstead, but more so Armstead, really getting good push at the point of attack, right? If you look at where my mouse is here, this is where this defender starts, right? And you can see the way that that lane just opens up completely. And Wright is reading this linebacker, so that's kind of why he keeps that tighter and does a good job of finding the crease there. But, even if the tackle was made at the point where that linebacker is there, right? That's still, probably a 5, 6 yard gain right here just because of the movement that Armstead's able to get on that defensive tackle. Okay, so I can tell you that currently the average individual grade for the Dolphins offensive lineman over the span used for my grades, which is since the beginning of 2023 to now, has been 7.85. While it may be difficult to see the progress that has been made on the offensive line, I can confidently say, based on my personal grades, that this offensive line continues to move in the right direction. Over the bye week, I used my grading system on the 49ers game versus the Seahawks. I think based on records and postseason success that the 49ers line is viewed as way better than Miami's. But when using the same grading system, there's not as much separation as you might think, even though the 49ers are much further into their roster construction. And when you really look into the strengths and weaknesses of the individuals that make up those units, it's actually, really, really similar. At this point, the next few weeks are obviously key to the Dolphins season. The hope would be that the team can continue to have its success in the run game that it's found as of late while reincorporating the efficiency and big plays in the passing game that were key to Miami's offense in 2023 with Tua as the trigger man. As always, I encourage you to leave a comment below or find me on X under @OLCoachSmith63, where I try to include more video breakdowns. And you can also find me on the Scouting Combine podcast with Hassan Patel under the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again next week.